Hey guys, Rhonda Dracula's here, RK3 Designs, and I'm super stoked about the project we're gonna do today. I have a customer that is wanting a small table, round table to make like a little coffee table out of. So we constructed one. Actually, my husband constructed one. It's 36 inches, MDF, and we took two half-inch sheets of MDF. He cut one circle, and then he cut another circle and made a lip. And he screwed these two together, glued it, and that's how we got our double edge. We did a rock edge with Bondo, and that really gave us a cool, unique look to this, not just a regular edge. It's a really pretty rock edge. So I'm excited to show you the finish that we're going to do on this today, so stay tuned. We're going to be using these colors, black base coat, white base coat, both from Stone Coat Countertops, and we'll be using the Stone Coat Countertop copper metallic mica powders. Then I'm also going to play a little bit today with just resin, turquoise luster and candy blue, also from just resin. And then a little bit of color obsession. This is a super vivid copper color, gorgeous. Not real sure if I'm gonna be coming back with the spray paints or not, but if I do, I'm gonna be using midnight blue and navy. Okay, so I have prepped my table with 2 coats of Behr paint and primer in one and suede gray. That's my base coat. So what I want to do now, because I really want to address these edges, and even though I'm going to have a opaque white base tint applied to this, due to the nature of the epoxy, as it breaks over and runs down through this rock edge, it's going to be thinner. So I want to put a little bit of color interest before I pour. So I'm going to start off with midnight blue, and when I say I'm just barely, I'm going to fix this, that I'm just barely fogging it, I literally am just barely fogging it. All right, just want a little bit of interest. I'm going to come back now with navy. And again, the products that I use are Rust-Oleum spray paint. This is a gloss. I try to use gloss whenever I can. Ever so often I'll get a color that doesn't come in a gloss and it'll be maybe a satin, but I never use a flat. The flats just have a tendency to sit on top of your epoxy and kind of clumps up. So, all right, so I did a little bit of navy, a little bit of midnight blue. Those of you who know me know that Lagoon is one of my very favorite colors. So I'm gonna be very light with this one, and I'm only hitting it ever so often. I'm not really getting crazy with that one, and I'm letting that paint go over the edge here, so when I actually have the break in the epoxy, you'll be able to see those colors. Now, because I know I'm going to be putting a little bit of metallic, I actually want to come back, and you know I'm going to do one thing different. I'm going to use a bagged technique. I like to do this to give a little more visual, and so I just take a plain plastic bag. But if you'll notice, there's writing on the outside, so make sure you turn that bag inside out, because if you don't, that ink will transfer to your project. So I'm going to take my bag, crunch it up so that I have some texture here. I don't want to just have it smooth. I really want some texture there. And I'm going to hit it with some hammered copper. And now I'm just going to very lightly, and I'm very sparse with this because I don't want this to be my main focus. I just want it to kind of highlight over the edge. And actually, I'm just kind of hitting the highs. It's not going down deep into the cracks and the crevices. So it's really just going to be the high point of that Bondo. Okay, I'll let this dry and I'll come back with our resin. Okay, so we're back. I've got my resin mixed up, and I'm just going to start applying it very randomly. Then I'm gonna spread it out just some. I'm gonna leave some voids where I'm gonna come back and bring those other colors. Just kind of getting an idea of my pattern at this point. Now I know I'm gonna come back in these voids with some different colors. So I think I'm gonna try to come back in here now, actually with my blue. Come back in here with my blue. Leave just a little bit in my cup in case I need to work with it a little bit later. I want some of these colors to kind of play off each other. So I'm randomly kind of sticking them together. I say randomly. There's no really rhyme or reason what I'm doing at this point. Let that sit. And come with a little black. When you mix two base tints together, and I don't mean mix them together, but put one on top of the other, you're gonna get some cells that are created. And that's kind of what I'm going for. I'd like to have a few cells, but the way to do that is you have to have one base tint go over the top of another base tint. So I'm going to do, and I'm going to just very carefully bring these together. I'm not mixing them at this point. I'm just bringing them together and letting them play. And like most of my projects, you cannot judge this at the beginning because it really has a neat effect as it goes on. And I'm going to address my edges once I add heat, and I'll kind of push that color off the edge. Now if you can just see a little bit on here, we're starting to get some really neat effects. And I haven't even done anything yet as far as manipulating the colors. I'm just letting them play off of each other right now and letting them kind of flow over the edge. So I'm going to come back in here now with a little bit of white that I had left over and giving myself, just filling up some big, maybe big areas of color that I want to kind of play off a little bit with the white. All right. Now I'm going to come in with some copper, but I think I'm going to play a little bit and let these epoxies kind of tell me where I need to add my copper. I really like to have my epoxy talk to me and kind of tell me where everything needs to go. All I'm doing now is coming in and touching any surface tension areas, maybe getting rid of something that maybe doesn't look quite as natural. So I'm going to let this set for just a minute before I start manipulating the colors, and grab a heat gun. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the little bell at the top to get future notifications. We would love to see you in one of our hands-on classes. For more information, check out my website, RK3Designs.com, for schedules and more information. Okay, so I've let it sit for just a couple of minutes, kind of letting all these colors talk to each other and play against each other. So now I'm going to come back in with my Stone Coat Countertop Copper Mica Powder, and I'm going to add it to wherever I think I may want a little bit of more accent or visual accents. And I'm just kind of, ooh, I really like this blue right here, so I'm going to kind of be careful with that, not to mess it up. I'm almost outlining some of the big areas, kind of outlining that. Never can have too much metallic, right? All right, have it running off my edges. also. All right, so now I'm going to come in with my heat gun. And I'm just going to start moving this around. Now, I want to start pushing that warm epoxy over the edge so that I can really start getting some pretty edges. You can run them off the edge with your hand to get some really cool visuals. Anything that I see that may look a little man-made, I like to come in and kind of mix all that up. I don't want anything that looks man-made. Drops, big drops, straight lines. I really want some bold pieces that are very distinct, but then in the kind of on the side throughout the white, I want to soften those colors, and that's why I use the heat gun. Anytime you add heat to a pattern, you're going to really soften that pattern. So a lot of my white space, because I don't just want just a big white blob, I'm going to really soften that pattern with my heat gun. So I've got some really neat cells right here. So I don't want to hit that area with any more heat because it'll take out those cells. And I really love those cells. Now see this little curve right here? I don't like curves in nature, so I'm gonna take that out. Oh yeah, there we go. Sometimes just barely touch it and adding a little bit of color into the white, and then you use your heat gun. It just adds such a small amount of color to that white, and then when you hit it with your heat gun, it's just gorgeous. So you want to make sure you address those edges, get color on them, and you can really see now where we fogged our colors prior to pouring. You can really see how those colors are popping through the surface and really getting some really neat effects. Okay, so I have copper metallic powder mixed with 91% isopropyl alcohol, and it's in a very fine spray bottle. So I'm just gonna kind of pick some places, not a lot, just a couple of places where I really want some different visuals. And you have to really let those alcohols play. You can't make a decision. I said I was only going to put it a few places, but look at me, I'm going everywhere. Let those alcohols play a little bit before you make any big decisions whether you like it. Now this is real teal, and I'm just kind of coming a little bit. All right, I'm going to let that sit a little bit, see what happens, and then we'll go from there. Anytime you add alcohol to the top of the resin, it can cause some surface tension. So all I'm doing now is kind of going through here, touching a little bit of that surface tension. So now that I've let that alcohol sit just a little bit, I'm going to come back with my heat gun and play just a little more. And this is a process that you can just play so much. You never really know when to stop. That's my problem. I keep wanting to play, mix. And I'm just going to kind of bring in some white. Now, even though I'm going white over white, it's going to really give a neat look. Kind of like a fracture into the rock area. I really like that. I think I'm going to do that in a couple other areas. I really like how I can put it on the edge and then take that heat gun and work it over that edge. This is where I start to get a little artsy on you. At first it was just throw down some colors. Now, this is where I really like to bring in my creativity and play and have fun. This is where I get in trouble because I never know when to stop. So I have a little bit of the copper that I mixed up of Color Obsession. It's been in my cup a little bit. I'm going to heat it up just a little bit. Melt my cup here. So I make it a little more fluid. So that's a pro tip. Don't ever give up on your epoxy that's in your cup if it's been there for a little bit. Hit it with just a little bit of heat and it'll become fluid again. So now I'm going to just kind of add some veins here. And if you notice, I start off the table and then I run it off the table. So I don't have any big blobs. I have a little blob right here, so I'm just going to kind of play with that and mix that in there. I'm going to come back with a little more bolder color here. I like that real bold color. Same thing here. I want to get some really bold color running right up next to that. Whoop! Gotta drop. Gotta drop. That's all right. It's just subtle, just a little interest. So if someone's sitting there just playing and looking at the table, they're like, wow, look at that little piece. Or lots of things for your eyes to go to in this piece. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it a day. I really have a problem with knowing when to stop, and that's why it's really important when you do a sample board to video yourself, and that way you know which time to stop, like which step to stop in. And that way when you transfer it to your actual project, you kind of have in your mind going into it how far you want to do that process. So I think I'm going to stop here. I like all the colors. It's got all the colors that my customer wanted, and it's just got some really cool visuals. I'll let this dry. What I'll do is I'll come back and then I'll put a flood coat on it, and then I'll address my edges just a little bit. I'll put maybe a glaze on there, and I can definitely show you some techniques on how to liven up your rock edges in some future videos, so stay tuned. Okay, so we started with a 36-inch round table made out of MDF. We took another round and we cut it and made us a lip. So now we have a nice big fat edge. After that, I came through with some Bondo, made a really neat rock edge. My husband took a grinder and really kind of grinded that rock edge to make it look natural. After we did the rock edge and I painted it with Behr paint and primer in one and suede gray, we came back with white base tint and black base tint. Then we added some turquoise and blue metallics and a little bit of copper, and I just kind of randomly put those down on the table, use my hand to kind of meld those colors together, use my heat gun, tilted the table a little bit, ran some white spray paint to give me a little more visual with my veins, and voila, here we go. Enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.